Welcome to the MCA 2 page of Understanding Byron Assessments. When you are in your parent portal for Infinite Campus, on the left side you'll see an assessment link you can click to. When you do so, you'll get a tab or a bracket like this one. In this particular case, you're looking at an MCA math test result. In here you have the information of what test it is. It tells you the date in which they took it, and it tells you the score of that test. And I'll tell you at this time that the score is based on their grade that they're in. So in this particular example, they were a 7th grader, and they scored a 74. And the result, or the state interpretation of that score, in this case, is an E. Now in blue here, I've explained what those letters mean. E would mean that they exceed the standard. M is that they meet the standard. And P is partially meets the standard. And D is does not meet the standard. The state hopes that each student will receive an M or an E. And if they do, then they are ready to graduate. If they receive a P or a D, they are not on track to graduate. Now when they are sophomores, when your student is a sophomore, they will take the reading and science. So in this case we have, again, 10, meaning that they are a 10th grader. 50 is the cutoff in terms of getting an M or an E. Again, M means meets, and E means exceeds. So those are both two good results. Science is a 10th grade test also. So then again, you have a 10 showing 10th grade, and a 50 again is the cutoff for, again, achieving an M or an E, which is proficiency for graduation. Math is an 11th grade test, so therefore their score begins with an 11. So again, an 1150 is the cutoff for meeting or exceeding the state standards. Math is unusual, however, because at this time it is not required for graduation. However, if they do not make or receive an M or an E, they do have to retake the test 2 more times. And if they still do not pass it, at this time the state says then they are okay to graduate, even though they did not pass the test or the retests. However, that will change for the class of 2015, in which at that time they will be required to pass the test. When it comes to MCA tests, you have a notification or a letter that you receive that the school sends home. And on that sheet of paper, there's some information that is, again, expressing what I've mentioned already. But again, I'm going to go through some of these pictures that hopefully can clarify what you're getting. Here is a sixth grader test result. I'm showing you this because this is a basic picture the state gives us. And in this bracket, in this graph, again, you have on the right the exceeds, meets, partially meets, and does not meet labels. But in the graph that you receive, it gives you your student score. Again, it's a 6th grade student, so they scored 654, 6 meaning that they are in 6th grade. 54 would be above the 50, so they would be meeting the standard. But not enough to exceed the standard, but again sufficient. It shows you the school score, the district score, is their averages, and the state average. So based on this particular student, they scored much higher than the average of the school, the district, and a little bit better than the state average. Again, the school average could be a building. So if they are in a middle school building, that would be their school average. District would be basically K-12, even though there's no MCAs in K through 2. So 3rd grade and up. You also have, from that result, a locator number, which is right here. Now this number is given to you from Pearson, and Pearson is a company that does the testing, and it also gives you some knowledge in terms of what your student knows and should work on. And based on that score, you can go to this website, and at that point you can type in their learning locator number. It would give you some online materials that your student can work on if you feel that they can or want to improve their scores. On that letter you receive, you also have a breakdown by strand. Again, I'm focusing on math, but you would have this for each of the tests, math, science, and reading. It tells you in the substrands here, for in this case number sense, how many points they got out of how many points were possible. So in this case we have 15 out of 19. It tells you the school average, so this person was a little bit above the school average in terms of 15 points out of 19. A little bit more above the district average, and a little bit more above the state average. And they break this down so you can get an idea of, again, maybe which strand they could improve on more. So this is a brief review then of the information you receive from your IC site parent portal for assessments.